The weather pattern has been thrown into the slammer with no chance for parole. Severe weather continues to be a problem, and it will be again this afternoon, and a couple of tropical disturbances have emerged, and we're going to check in on those and see just what the tropics have in store. We're going to look at our star, as chances are increasing that we are going to see geomagnetic storm conditions soon. And we'll see what's going on under the earth. And if you think that you know your weather, then stick around, because I'm going to test your weather IQ and see just how smart you actually are when it comes to a certain aspect of the weather. Welcome in, folks. This is Cold Rain's Weather World. We've got all the weather here, and if you're new to the channel, then please subscribe by hitting the subscribe button down below. Like the content if you like it. We're growing very rapidly here. I've had a lot of new subscribers over the last couple of weeks. Thank you all to all of you who have joined, and certainly leave a comment in the comments section. Let me know if there's anything that I and we can pray over for you, and we will certainly do that. Let me know where you're commenting from too. That always helps. But anyway, we've got a big show lined up for you today. I can't promise you that you're going to like the forecast, but I can promise you that you will be smarter by the time you leave this show. So stick around. We've got a lot going on, and we're going to start with the severe weather outlook. Boy, oh boy, we are stuck in the mud. The record is broken, not the record for the record books, but that record that goes around the turntable. And if you grew up in the record era, you know what I mean. They would get a skip, and they would skip at the same part and just repeat at the same part of the song. And if you grew up in that era, you probably still hear songs in your head, and you can hear the skip on the record. You used to put a little stack of dimes or quarters on the needle that would help to alleviate the skip, and the record would play until it wouldn't work anymore. Anyway, we are seeing the same sort of weather over and over and over, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. So there you go, folks. Look at this satellite imagery. This is the infrared loop, and the brighter the colors, the higher the clouds extending up into the atmosphere. A couple of things of interest on this image, this loop. We see a cluster of showers and thunderstorms out here over this off the southeast coast, another one moving across Florida into the Gulf. Big swirl here in Texas. That's the remnants of that tropical system that came across Louisiana. It's stuck under the ridge again, and a big plume of moisture coming in to the Four Corners region. This will be responsible for continuing to help bring rain and flooding rain out here, at least for the next few days. And then we've got this big system out here working through Minnesota, where we have seen a lot of rain and some wind damage with some of this stuff. This is maybe the third in a series of clusters of thunderstorms that have held together through the nighttime hours and moved on in. And we're going to see more of that as we go on in time. Here is the surface map we're all used to seeing. A couple of waves of low pressure. This front has been pretty stationary up here over top of this ridge. Like I've been telling you, got a big ridge, and we're going to see energy tracking along the apex of that ridge and then moving either to the east or to the southeast from there. This frontal boundary has really come south over here in the southeast. Big time trough up in the northeast is providing fall-like conditions for you all. The dew points have lowered, the sun has come out, and temperatures have come down, and it feels great. Don't get used to it. That's a little bit of a hint, but it's going to be summer again before you know it. And anyway, I'm hoping that we can get a couple of days out of this here in the south where the dew points come down a bit. But main areas of thunderstorm activity this afternoon across the southeast, up here across the northern tier where we see severe weather and flooding is a possibility, and then down here in mainly around New Mexico and the desert southwest, we're going to see flash flood potential again this afternoon. Checking in on the severe weather threat, yeah, it's up here again in the right in the border between the Dakotas, eastern Montana, southeastern Montana, and up here into Minnesota this afternoon. There are some model discrepancies, though, on just when convection will form and what areas will see it. There's a marginal risk around that down the front range of the Rockies here and over a little farther east into Wisconsin, parts of Iowa too. And then, of course, down here in the southeast, that's a little bit more certain that we're going to see showers and thunderstorms develop here. A few of those could produce some wind damage with some precipitation loading and a little evaporative cooling and things like that. Easy for me to say. Tornado is certainly a possibility along the boundary that sets up here. As thunderstorms track along this, as they initially form into supercells, they have a pristine environment to work in. They can make use of all the the instability that's out there, the warm, moist air that's there, and if there's any spin and rotation in the atmosphere, which there certainly will be around a boundary, they can suck that up, stretch it out, you can get a tornado, plus you get more vigorous updrafts with that instability, and you see large hail production. As thunderstorms emerge into clusters, the environment kind of gets messy, and the wind, the streamwise vorticity that thunderstorms need to suck up kind of gets messed up a little bit, and we're not going to get into the details of why all that happens, but just know that's why when we start off with supercells, we have a better chance of tornado threat, and then as things kind of merge together into lines and clusters, as they will later this afternoon, you lose that a little bit, and you kind of get more into a wind threat, and as that wind organizes, that's kind of what's going on there. Doesn't mean a tornado can't form along a bow echo or something, because it can, and they often do, but the bigger threat for tornadoes is earlier on. You could see wind gusts over 70 miles per hour here in this hatched area, eastern Montana, and then the Dakotas here right along the border. And then hail could be a possibility too. Large hail over 2 inches. We saw some large hail around 2.5 inches in Kansas yesterday, and winds over 80 miles per hour, or 70 miles per hour rather, approaching 80 in some spots. So that's what's going on today. This afternoon, that threat shifts a little bit east into Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, back down here through southern Minnesota, including the Twin Cities, northwest Iowa, and back into Nebraska. And we're going to see a line segment kind of form and move through there. We've got plenty of instability this afternoon. Let's put this over here on this display. We can see it all. So instabilities are ratcheting up as we get on into the afternoon hours. Look at these purple and whites. That's 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability. That's pretty strong instability, folks. We get into the blacks and we really start to get into some extreme values, and you see a few of those showing up over South Dakota. So we're going to have a lot of fuel to work with. Question is, are thunderstorms going to develop, and what form are they going to take when they do? And then tomorrow afternoon, you can see that instability axis up here in Wisconsin, back into Minnesota and Iowa and Illinois, Nebraska, and those kind of places, and then that will diminish as we lose the heating of the day. All right, so here is the future radar right here this morning. Got a cluster of thunderstorms moving through Minnesota. Today they're already a little bit ahead of this. Some showers back into Montana, a couple of showers down here in the Four Corners region and across the southeast too. As we go on through the afternoon, we get on in here to lunch and early afternoon, we're starting to see more storms fire up along northern Minnesota into North Dakota, starting to see a few fire up here in Montana. Of course, back into the Four Corners region, and particularly Mexico, New Mexico and Colorado, we're going to see a flash flooding threat emerge here as thunderstorms have continued to train over the same areas, drop heavy rainfall rates. Back into the southeast, midday, 1, 2 o'clock, we're starting to see thunderstorms develop out here. We get on into 4 and 5 p.m. East Coast this afternoon, and approaching 6 and 7 o'clock, we're starting to see thunderstorms develop supercells here in southwest eastern Montana, rather, and across Nebraska and up into South Dakota. More storms firing along the boundary here in Minnesota. Plenty of showers in the southeast, and showers and thunderstorms in West Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. As we get on into the evening hours, there's a cluster developing up here in northern Minnesota. Could provide a big wind threat there. Not seeing a whole lot develop along the South Dakota, North Dakota border. Just a few little showers on this particular radar image, but do not be surprised if we see more in the way of robust convection out here. Again, there's some question marks around this. There's a little MCV, little vortex moving through Iowa that could spark off a few thunderstorms there this afternoon. So don't be surprised if you hear some wind blowing outside of your house with some of these thunderstorms. And as we get onto the overnight hours, early morning tomorrow, and then as we approach mid-morning tomorrow, should have another complex going here in Minnesota. Get in tomorrow afternoon. There it is again, blowing up along that boundary, the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin through central Minnesota, and then a few thunderstorms trailing behind the boundary, high-based thunderstorms out here in North Dakota, back into Wyoming, front range of the Rockies. Look at that. And then everything, more storms in the southeast, northeast looking good, west coast not too bad, a few showers, and then we're off and running through the evening hours tomorrow with another complex holding together through Iowa and Nebraska and moving on in and dissipating as we get into overnight hours, and you see a few clusters here continuing to linger in the Gulf and off the southeast coast. That's your severe weather outlook, folks. We're going to take a look at those tropics, but first, stay tuned for the weather IQ question, and let's see if you know the answer to it. You don't know the question because I haven't said it yet, but I'm about to. We've had a lot of questions in our moon series about full moons, and there are a couple of more to go, but we're going to stop with this one. This is going to be the last one that we do for a while around full moons, and it is regarding the November moon. So the first full moon in November is called what? the gander moon, the snipe moon, the beaver moon, or the thankful moon? Well, I'm always thankful to see the moon, but is that the right answer? Well, stick around to the end of the show and you'll find out. But if you know it, type it in the comments section and I'll reveal it to you at the end of the show. And then you can tell all your friends what you learned, at least one of the things that you learned at Cold Rain's Weather World. Send them over here so they can learn too. Sharing is caring, folks. There's no better way to get Cold Rain's Weather World out to more people than to share it with your friends and family. But right now, it's time for that tropical update and see what's going on out there in the Atlantic and the Gulf. The Eastern Pacific has been the place to be if you enjoy tracking tropical activity, but nothing's going on out there right now. What about the Atlantic? Well, let's see here, and no, nothing going on in the Atlantic either. We had a lemon out here in the middle of the Atlantic for a few days, and now we don't. That simply means that there was an area of interest that the National Hurricane Center was watching, and they are no longer watching that for development. It has moved into an area where it is no longer favorable for development. So we're going to see what else is going on out here in just a minute. We'll look at the satellite image and see what we see here. As a matter of fact, we can actually go ahead and pull that up right now. I like this image, but it is certainly a big wide image. It takes up the whole screen. If you want to see the whole screen, I've had to diminish it. And there it is. There's your tropical Atlantic. We can be thankful for the quiet out here, folks, but we've got some, this is the actual water, mid-level water vapor. Look at all this dry air. You see that dry air there? Look at that. Just big plume of dry Saharan air out here sitting just north of our MDR. This is the MDR out here, main development region. We see a couple of waves. Here's one merging off of the coast of Africa. This is the one that's getting more and more fragmented that the National Hurricane Center was watching. So that's what's going on. These systems move west to, or east to west toward the islands out here. And we've got another little system hanging off the coast, another one emerging here into the Gulf Coast. And so that's what's going on out in the tropics. Dry air is no good for tropical development. Neither is wind shear, neither is cool waters, and we've got a combination of some of those factors prohibiting tropical development out there now. And so we should be thankful for that. Take the time to be thankful for the little things in life, folks. As a matter of fact, if you're still with me here, just share this with you. I've got an autistic son, as you might know from some of the videos that I post, and he joins me on some shorts from time to time. We actually had a birthday party, a family birthday party to go to this weekend, and we went to Chuck E. Cheese, the first time he's ever been to Chuck E. Cheese. He's got hearing issues, and so environments like that, very, very loud, and just he can't tolerate it all that well, so we try to be sensitive to that. But in the world where you have autism or some other developmental delays or whatever, you'd be thankful for the really little things in life. It really helps you to get you some perspective on certain things, and we try to take that approach. But he was at Chuck E. Cheese, and Chucky came out, the little rat or mouse or whatever it is, and he just loved meeting Chucky. That just made his day. He talked about that the rest of the day, and I know that's silly, may sound silly, but it's one of those things that we should, it's a reminder to be thankful for the little things in life. And we could be seeing a lot of tropical activity that could be impacting people in negative ways, and we're not seeing that, and thank goodness for that. At least I guess that's where I'm going with that, but I wanted to share that with you. So anyway, back here in our tropical Atlantic, temperatures warm up as we get over here toward the eastern sections of the Atlantic over here in off the southeast coast into the Gulf. Gulf's running warmer than normal, and so anything that takes off here is going to really take off. So if we start to get some development in the eastern Atlantic, I keep calling it the eastern Atlantic, this is the western Atlantic. The western Atlantic or the Gulf, we are going to see some good development quickly, probably because we've got a lot of fuel here that has not been overturned, cool water from underneath upwelled by previous convection. The Caribbean not looking all that great. We usually see plenty of 80-degree water, 90-degree water around this, and we're just not. We're seeing cooler temperatures down here, and that needs to turn around if we want to get this area going later on. So that's what's happening with temperature shear. In terms of what's going on shear wise, here we go. You can see these red colors out here. I'll draw our main development region so you can kind of see that. That's a sounding. I don't like that, but this is what I wanted to do. Right in here is what we're going to be watching for. Red colors, no good. Blue colors, better. And so as we roll this along here, you can see out in time, these are 5-day averages. Get a little bit better shear response here over time. So maybe that little wave coming off of Africa has a little bit better opportunity to develop out in time. But again, we'll eventually see those reds pick back up over time. So not a great environment, certainly not all that great along the and next to the United States, plenty of shear down here. So tropical development is not going to really be all that favored for the foreseeable future. The GFS shows something trying to get going here toward Louisiana. Either way, lots of rain is coming for you folks down here along the beaches, southern beaches, into the Gulf, across Florida. Look at that. Lots of rain as we go on out in time here, potentially flooding rains there. There's the GFS. We just roll this on forward over the next 2 weeks. You see a few disturbances approach the southeast, can kind of linger off the coast from time to time. Once in a while, the GFS will actually try to develop something as we go on later into the period. There is a little low off the southeast coast. And I show this only to show what's possible as we go out in time with these systems rotating around the ridge and lingering off the coast. That's what's going on there. The European ensembles actually give a 20 to 30% chance of development off the southeast coast, greater chance in the Gulf as this disturbance kind of sits there and lingers. And that's what's going on in the tropics, folks. And we'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep you informed. But boy, the pattern is stuck. It's in the slammer, and we have some hot temperatures coming up. We're going to take a look at that right now. All right, folks, this weather pattern is stuck on high. It is in jail, and it is not breaking out anytime soon. It's just going to sit there, and we're going to get stale air. It's going to feel hot. It's going to be hot. It's going to be nasty. And it's going to last for a long time. So get ready for the big heat, folks, at least for some of the nation. Wind this afternoon, windy in the central plains, windy back up here in the northern Rockies, back into the intermountain west. Could see winds gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour. Not so bad in the east, except for maybe the southeast with thunderstorms. Maine could see a few gusts. Air quality finally got rid of the smoke. Thank goodness. Everybody else looking pretty good except maybe around Los Angeles, but not bad. This is the bad map. Lots of heat advisories up here through the Mississippi Valley, all the way up into the Midwest and northern plains. Heat index values this afternoon surging into the 100s. Extreme heat warnings up for a good portion of the week for many of these areas where you're going to see heat index values over 100 every single day, and extreme heat watches up here in southern Wisconsin and northeast Illinois. Flash flood watches are up in eastern and northeastern Minnesota and then back into New Mexico, where we're going to find training and repeated rounds of heavy rain. And so watch out in there. Red flag warnings back in Wyoming as well, so don't burn anything there. These heat maps, this is not great, folks, unless you really like heat, but it is going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. Look at this. Hundreds already showing up down here in Dallas, up here in Little Rock, back near Shreveport. And then 80s in North Carolina where I live, which is nice. We've got a little bit of a drier air mass coming in. Look at this up here, 60s in New England, 70s near Bangor, 76, and get on down here into Boston, the 60s, but then it gets into the 70s. But that is nice weather. The air is drier up here. Not too bad along the West Coast either, where you guys had your share of heat already this summer. As we go on out into tomorrow afternoon, the heat sticks around here in the nation's midsection, warming up a little bit in the northeast and cooling off a little bit here in the north behind that front as showers and severe weather take its toll on the temperatures. And then we really start to warm up along the east, getting into the 80s and to the northeast. Still 80s here in the southeast, but that's going to change in a big way. 106 in Dallas. And then as we get on through the end of the week, this is Friday afternoon, hundreds and 90s surging back up into the Canadian border. It's looking really hot along the east coast of the desert southwest as well. New England starting to feel the effects of that heat too. And then just gets hotter and hotter Saturday into Sunday. We're seeing hundreds up here in the central plains, near 100 in the southeast. And the humidity is going to be nasty with that too. So if we look here, these browns, by the way, are drier, and these light blues are drier. So it's dry out west, dry up here in New England. It feels great. Yellows and reds, greens, yellows, and particularly reds start to get really humid. And we just see that air continues through Wednesday into Thursday up in New England. But look at this big wave of moisture about to break in on you guys and give you some heat index values up there too as we get on in later into the period. Big blob of moisture rotating through the Gulf. We're going to watch that for tropical development, but you can see how that moisture just sort of pools back again in the nation's midsection, lower Great Lakes, and on into the southeast through time. That takes us all the way out till Monday the 28th. And here are our probabilities for precipitation over the next couple of days, folks. This is Wednesday afternoon. Probability of precipitation is pretty high up here on through Wednesday. This is the day of Wednesday, including Tuesday night into Wednesday. So we're going to see the chance of rainfall pretty high across the northern tier, back in the Front Range, the Rockies, Southern Plains, and across the south as well. As we get into Thursday, here is the probability there, pretty high again, back here in the same areas, back into the Front Range, the Rockies, but up through Wisconsin and the Midwest, and again across the southeast, lower portions of the southeast. And as we get on into Friday, that front is starting to sag south a little bit, so northern New England, the Great Lakes, northern Ohio Valley, extending back into the Central Plains is going to be the favorite area for rainfall. And then again across the southeast, not much is changing there, so we could end up seeing some flooding rains, particularly around the Gulf Coast states as we go on out in time. Pattern is not changing all that much. We've got a ridge here centered in the eastern portion of the country, trough out west, keeping it a little cooler there. There's that trough up in New England. But as we go on out through the week, Wednesday, Thursday, starting to see some higher heights in New England, a little bit of a low pressure signal off the coast of California working and bring some unsettled weather out there. But over time, watch what happens. That ridge center, as we get on out into Sunday, early next week, that ridge center starts to really intensify, build back over the center portion of the country. We'll get knocked down here. The heights will get knocked down in New England as we go on out in time, but that as that ridge establishes itself along the western portion of the country in the Four Corners region. Look at that axis extends all the way up into Canada, keeps all of the storms out of the United States from the west, and allows a trough to set up along the east coast. If that happens, we'll see some cooler air poke in and drier air poke into the northeast, maybe getting into the mid-Atlantic from time to time. But the biggest signal for heat continues to be centered across the Four Corners region and through the plains, not going anywhere. This pattern is stuck. It's not looking great at all. And looking at the Climate Prediction Center 8 to 14 day outlook, July the 29th through August the 4th, there's your big heat signal across much of the country except for the northeast and near normal along the west coast, above in Alaska and Hawaii. As you would expect, you get a big ridge center. Precipitation and disturbances are going to track around the apex of that ridge, maybe make their way into the southeast and off the coast occasionally from time to time. So southeast coast and the Gulf Coast down toward Florida, above normal across the northern tiers you would expect, and then below in the kind of the northeast and back into the Four Corners region. This is out in time, July the 29th through August the 4th. And that is your weekly planner and your long-range forecast. We're going to check on that sun and see when those geomagnetic storm conditions are going to hit right now. All right, folks, geomagnetic storm conditions are inbound, or at least forecast to be inbound tomorrow, hitting tomorrow. This is forecast by NASA, G1, so minor geomagnetic storm conditions that could produce an aurora. And we'll have to watch and see. It just depends on if the magnetism is right and it's the intensity of the interaction with the magnetosphere is good enough. But there's that coronal hole, or strong enough, I should say, rather. There's that coronal hole turning away like this. Sun's rotating around in this direction. There's another coronal hole coming, and they enhance the solar winds, and that can produce auroras. Everything is oriented just right. Something else could produce aurora is solar flare, and you might see a solar flare come off of a sunspot. But unfortunately, if you're looking for that, these turning in toward us are not gaining in complexity, and we're not expecting anything until things get a little more complex with these, and we start to see interspersing of magnetic charges. We're not really looking at a lot to happen there, so nothing going on there. All's quiet there. Little couple shakes in Southern California from an earthquake standpoint, but these are like 2.9 or close to 3, so you're probably not feeling anything there. Things have quieted down since the big Russian 7.4 earthquake the other day, and the Alaskan one 7.2 before that. Kind of active geological period we're in, but not in the volcano front. Nothing going on out here. Still the same 4 volcanoes we're watching in the Pacific Ring of Fire and the same advisory levels. There's your moon, waning crescent. It is diminishing down to 6.5%, going down to a new moon status. It will be gone altogether on the 24th in a couple of days. And if you get a chance, check out some of those meteor showers. You can go outside. If it's not cloudy, you can see with no moon pollution, no moonlight pollution, you can see some meteors, potentially some fireballs in the sky. The Perseids are going on. A couple of other ones are going to peak here in late July. And of course, with this nasty pattern coming up, we are all looking forward to the end of heat and looking forward to fall. I am at least 62 days until calendar fall, 40 days until meteorological fall, which is September the 1st. And so we're looking forward to all of that coming in. That leads us into the answer to today's weather IQ question. And the question was, what is the first full moon in November called? The gander moon, the snipe moon, the beaver moon, or the thankful moon? Of course, as I said, I'm always thankful for the moon. I'm thankful for you joining, but that is not the right answer. The right answer is a beaver moon, named for the time when beavers actively build their winter dams. If anybody's ever taking you on a snipe hunt, you know that wasn't the right answer. But now you know about the moon. That's all of our moon series. We're going to have to start a new series tomorrow. But in any event, one more thing to know, in 1934, on July the 22nd, public enemy number one, John Dillinger, was gunned down outside of the Biograph Theater in Chicago, Illinois by FBI agents, ending a nationwide manhunt for this notorious bank robber, and he did not have a problem killing anybody that got in his way. He and the Dillinger gang robbed banks all across the Midwest and the South and lots of other places too, and a lot of other notorious criminals came up out of the Depression era. We'll talk about that sometime, but that's it for today. Now you know about criminals, you know about the moon, you know about the weather, and as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you, if other stations run 24/7, we got you covered right here, right now at Cold Rain's Weather World 4814. That's it, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you back tomorrow.